Hey, it's Randy again, and thanks for checking out this video. If you hunt on property in high hunting pressured states like Michigan and Pennsylvania, and you struggle to see and shoot mature bucks, then this video is for you. Now just keep in mind this video is about mature bucks in high hunting pressured areas who have survived to maturity by avoiding an army of hunters every fall. So let's dive right into habitat problem number one. Most properties have a big woods with big trees and a high canopy of leaves overhead, which blocks the sunlight from reaching the forest floor. This creates an open woods where you can see over 100 yards in any direction. The problem is, so can the deer. This isn't security for mature deer. Hunting in this kind of woods in a high pressure area is a low percentage stand location. Yeah, I know you see pro staffers on TV in these kind of woods all the time, but think about where those videos are filmed. Those lightly hunted and highly managed farms in the Corn Belt isn't reality for most of us hunters. Another downside to a mature open woods is there's very little food for the deer to browse, making it a virtual deer desert. This is the most common reason hunters bang their head against the wall in frustration. A big beautiful open woods with a high canopy may be great for hunting squirrels, but it's absolutely lousy for hunting mature bucks. The second problem preventing hunters from shooting big bucks is they don't have enough secure daytime bedding cover. The property with the best daytime bedding for mature bucks has a huge advantage over his neighbors. If your neighbors have a 5-star hotel for deer on their property and you only have a Motel 6, then he holds all the cards and you'll have to sit and wait for big bucks to get up and leave his property and walk onto yours, hoping they don't get shot before they get there. If they do walk onto your property, chances are it'll already be dark by the time they get there. Problem number 3 is not having good screening barriers to screen your entry and exit to and from your stands. This is a huge problem for a lot of hunters who alert deer while walking to and from their stands. This causes unnecessary stress to the deer on your property, and the bucks can tell something is wrong just by seeing the nervous behavior of the does. Add in the scent you leave behind long after you leave the woods, and it only takes a couple hunts to cause mature deer to either go nocturnal or leave your property altogether, especially if you don't provide adequate cover to make them feel safe to stay on your property. Problem number 4 is property that is not segmented into different uses for deer. If your property has bedding covers spread throughout the whole property, you won't know where the deer will travel to bed down in the morning and from where they'll get up in the late afternoon. They could be anywhere. That's not a recipe for predictable and productive deer hunting. You need to take control and tell deer exactly where you want them to bed down during daylight hours. You own the property. Don't leave that decision up to the deer. The same goes for deer travel corridors. These are easily created and make mature deer feel safer moving around during daylight hours. And if your travel corridors lead to several small secluded food sources, you can accommodate multiple doe family groups feeding at the same time without matriarch does bothering each other, since they're very territorial. If you have a small property, every portion of it has to be thought out and segmented for the deer's benefit if you want them to feel safe and stay on your property. This takes a bit of planning and the correct understanding of deer behavior in pressured areas. Get this wrong and you can really set yourself back several years. Problem number 5 is not having enough food and water on your property. You'll notice food and water wasn't listed in the top 4. That was done on purpose because the reason you're watching this video is this: to increase the number of quality deer you see and shoot on your property during daylight hours of the hunting season. In other words, making your hunting property produce the kind of hunting experiences you always dreamed of for you and your kids. You could have the most awesome food plots in your area, but if your property suffers from the first 4 problems we already talked about, then great food won't help much, and you'll likely only see does and young bucks in your food plots and on your bait piles during shooting light. The mature bucks will simply show up after dark, so all the work that you put into creating food plots will not translate into a trophy on the ground. Also, you'd be surprised as to how many properties we visit that have very little to no water sources. The lack of water is not an option. If you don't have it, the deer will not stay on your property and you no longer control their movement patterns. Problem number 6 is hunting on the edge of big crop fields and big food plots. Even if your big fields and food plots have the best tasting food in the whole county, pressured big bucks have become conditioned to avoid these wide open spaces until after dark during the hunting season, because too many hunters hang their tree stands or ground blinds right on the edge, and they hunt them in the morning or too frequently in the evening. Even worse is some hunters will walk through a short crop field like soybeans in the morning, clearing all the deer out of the field before daylight in order to get to their stands. I know we all see pro staffers having success bow hunting big field edges, but again, remember where they're hunting. Those mature bucks on camera have never lived and survived a whole hunting season with an army of hunters targeting them since they were just yearlings with their first set of antlers. It really is not much different than a teenage boy growing up and learning how to survive on the inner city streets of Detroit versus a teenager growing up on a rural farm in Iowa. They don't understand the kind of street smarts it takes for inner city kids in Detroit to avoid getting a beat down. This is why hunting shows on TV filmed in big buck states should be watched only for their entertainment value, not their educational value. Problem number 7 is many properties don't have enough hunting locations to accommodate different wind directions and the different phases of the hunting season. Even if you alternate a few hunting spots once a week, the mature deer that live on and around your property will know exactly where your stands are located and will simply avoid these spots during daylight hours. Yes, deer can pattern your hunting activity. Each stand site should have a purpose for hunting it, whether it's for shooting only bucks or only does. Rarely will a good early season stand be just as good several weeks later into the hunting season. The more scouting and prep work you do in the spring before green up, the more that will translate into hunting success in the fall. Now there are solutions to all these problems that many landowners face, and most of them can be solved in less than 1 year. More and more landowners are learning about these solutions and are transforming their properties into a place where whitetails want to live. If one of your neighbors is implementing these strategies and you're not, it'll have a big impact on the quality and success of your hunting experience. But if you're one of the first in your area to improve the habitat on your property, it'll leave your neighbors wondering where all the mature deer went. You've got time, money, and hard work invested in your property. You don't need to be frustrated by another disappointing hunting season just because your habitat doesn't attract and hold mature deer like it could. Tactics will not put pressured mature bucks in front of you consistently every year, but hardcore habitat strategies will. Nothing gives you a bigger advantage as a hunter of mature bucks than having a deep understanding of whitetail behavior in the habitat that they prefer. You can be sure of 2 things. 95% of your neighboring hunters have a shallow understanding of the habitat it takes to keep mature bucks on a property. The other 5% of hunters at the top are fanatical about gaining a better understanding and applying what they learn to their habitat. As someone who wants to stay in the top 5%, you realize that the time you invest to gain and apply this understanding is time well spent. That's why you're watching this video. So it's for guys like you that Jake and I, with some help from our friend Jim, spent the last 2 years filming our habitat strategies as we work and hunt on our properties, so we can pass along this information to hunters who want to end their frustration of going through the same disappointing hunting season year after year. So if you want to know how you can access all these videos of hardcore habitat and hunting strategies, just click the yellow button below.